I think Ryan Day is a walking excuse. He may not say it explicitly, but the vibe he gives off, the vibe the fan base, I think parrots for him is that there's always a reason that they haven't achieved championship success. There's a reason that Michigan is beating up on them the last 3 years, and it's everything but Michigan was just better. It was they just the elements the first year weren't to their favor. It was you had a few bad plays with a new defensive coordinator the second year, and last year they want to put it on the signs, even though the sign stealer guy wasn't around the second half of the season. So, no excuses this year.
Where to start? Okay. This is the same crew who for 30 years has said Ohio pays players, Ohio buys refs. This is the JT was short crew. These are the folks who have whined incessantly my entire life that their admission standards are too high to get the players Ohio gets, then turned around and bragged that their admission standards are so high that Ohio players couldn't get in. These clowns looked up the birthplace of the referees from the JT was short game, found out one was born in Ohio, and sent his family threats. This guy's own fan base can't stand him. Matter of fact, this guy's own co-host went on for months about Justin Fields taking online courses because, of course, they couldn't win with Justin Fields taking online courses. They resort to using a global pandemic to cheat, blame it on a cheeseburger, and then get out of playing the game. The game. Their hero, Bo Schembechler, would smack the smug off of every one of their goateed little faces. The same people who said that little manifesto dork didn't gain them any advantage at all by spending all that time, money, resources, tickets, employees to go gather all that information when all you got to do is get it from the All-22 tape. He did it for fun. The hypocrisy and the arrogance for decades of this nonsense to turn around after they get a couple and project all that garbage onto the head coach at Ohio State is just pure Michigan. Never change, baby. Never change. And they won't. And they'll get what's coming to them soon. And when they do, it'll be over and over and over. Let's get it.
And I don't think he's going to throw the ball as much as he thinks he's going to throw the ball now that Chip Kelly's on board. And I'm happy about that. More quarterback.
The truth is Ryan Day has made a change philosophically, but it's none of those.
You all know who wins. LSU is the drunkest fan base in the country.
Start. That means we've got
7 o'clock. Bro, what? And welcome into Juck on Bucks. Thanks so much for joining me, guys. A whole lot to go over today. I had a couple of days off here. We had some recruits that fell off the board. We got some official visitors to go over too. I'm sure you've all heard about Erin Dunston by now. Erin Dunston worked in the recruiting department, and she is no longer with the crew as she is heading up to join her sister. Posted a picture with her sister when they were little girls back together again. She is an assistant basketball coach up at the University of Michigan, and a whole lot of vitriol towards Erin Dunston, who obviously is not really part of Ohio State as far as culture goes. I wouldn't say. She's not from Ohio State. She doesn't probably give two damns about our rivalry. I would blame this more specifically on the people that hire folks to work inside the recruiting department who don't particularly care about that kind of thing. Because let's be honest, it doesn't take a brilliant mind to put together visits or handle the scheduling for recruiting. Now, she's been called a rock star. I'm quite certain you could find several Ohioans who are capable of that job. If nothing else, maybe have Ryan Day's brother do a background check and make sure that the people working inside the recruiting department don't have siblings who work for the enemy. Maybe try that. But a whole lot of rumors going around. Matter of fact, the guy who was right there at the intro put this on his website today. So somebody came in and said, a moderator on the website, and this is the Michigan Insider, said her departure turned Day inside out. He went too short on her. Even made a call to security for extra measure. And the fellow there who was in the intro, I heard the same thing. I received multiple calls that Day cussed her out and had her escorted from the building. So Ryan Day is out here cussing out 30-year-old women, probably kicked her in the back of the knee on her way out, so she tripped and fell. These guys are unbelievable, man. It's just unbelievable. As far as her being escorted out, yeah, there's a lot of reasons why that happens at jobs. And the majority of the reason is when people find out that a friend at work is leaving while they're at work, they all conjugate next to the person. They want to sit there and talk. They're shocked. They can't believe it. It disrupts the entire workday. Trust me, I know. And they need to just go, okay? They need to go and make their personal calls to the people that are friends with them at work that they left and do that after hours. We've got a business to run. We've got an operation to run. Be gone. And, that's probably true. She probably was escorted out of the building, but that doesn't make it bad or wrong or them being paranoid. It's just kind of, if you ever worked a real job in your life, you might recognize that that's kind of the way things are at a lot of places when you abruptly leave. I'm guessing those folks haven't on that board. And some of these guys, I'm getting text so it is recruiting hot time right now, and the calls for this guy's in, this guy's out, this guy's going to commit. It's wild, man. It's hot stuff right now, and you got to be very careful who you listen to. For one, don't listen to me when I made this prediction yesterday, 2 days ago. What's happened today, I think, with these guys coming off the board like this rather unexpectedly, is it has opened up Jake Cook getting that offer. So our guy came back down and worked out on Wednesday. Jake Cook, I'm talking. Jake Cook comes down, works out Wednesday. Jeremy Birmingham sends out this text message, which is in the recruiting world generally means, I'm not sure if that's specific to Berm, but generally when you see someone word something like that who is in recruiting, they, put the little question mark on there, phrase it like a question. Is he going to get his offer from Ohio State? Is the offer coming? And that usually means, okay, the offer's coming, guys. I'm going to give you, here's your value for your service that you subscribe to, but I'm not going to steal that kid's shine and let him go post that graphic on Twitter that he got the offer and be the first one to say it. That's not what happened here in this case. Jake Cook left with the same conversation that was had with him on the previous workout, which was, without an offer. But, we're still very interested. We're just not going to extend the offer today. As you can imagine, that didn't go over great on the other end. And Jake went and reaffirmed his commitment shortly after that to Louisville on Twitter by posting a graphic in peer recruiting, maybe, 2 hours after he left Columbus. So he wasn't happy, I'm sure. And who would be after breaking your chops and getting told no again and again. So, unfortunate. That sucks. But as of yet, and I still in the end really think that we are going to come out with a really good looking class. But we're going to talk about the offensive line later on. We're going to talk about Justin FRYE and kind of evaluate it. Last time I brought him up, it even blew me away. Now, I've had a negative opinion of this guy for a little while now, to the point so much so that I had to shut myself down. Like I had to tell myself, you got to quit talking about this guy because it's starting to come off like you got a personal vendetta against him. But it wasn't that. I just love the offensive line as a group, as a unit on a team. It's my bread and butter. And I've just felt like it's been so poorly executed from the very beginning, recruiting to the development to the final product for a while now, even before FRYE. And it bothers me very much. Like I feel like Ohio and Ohio State and Ohio football players, we should be what our rival had, which is Joe Moore Awards, which is tough football, which is headbanging in the trenches. Like that should be us. And it's something that I have a real hard time with. So am I a little overcritical of the guy? I've asked myself that question several times. So I'm going to break it down exactly why I feel the way I feel about him in a little bit. But first, I want to talk about something else. So I think we're going to enter a situation here. I was talking to a guy on an Oregon show last night, I popped into the live show, said hello. But I'm going to go on that show, and we're going to talk some Oregon, Ohio State football. Juck on Bucks. Hey, Juck. What up, dude? Hey, Juck. I think if this is you, if I'm making this right, I think I sent you an email. Let's chat it up, dude. Especially for this Ohio State game. Let's do this thing. I would love to come on your channel if you want to talk some Ducks. Come on my channel, whatever. You got a great one over there, though. Juck on Bucks. Juck on Bucks. We are so hyped on this Ohio State game. You have no idea. I could literally talk about this Ohio State game from now till then. I've had other guys come on from other the guys who did is Patrick Murphy. He runs like the Bucknuts thing or something. I can't exactly, I'm sure, but he does a great job. I've had some other guys come on. Mark Rogers TV. He's connected to Ohio State. He's an Ohio State guy, even though he doesn't want to claim it. Voice of college football. He's an Ohio State guy. But yeah, dude, we'd love to have you on if you're. And it just had me thinking. So Tennessee and Alabama, hated rivals forever. Then the last 20 years, when we think of Alabama's biggest game, who are they playing? It's not Tennessee. It's LSU, right? We all want to see the Alabama LSU game almost every year. And it's been like that for a long time now. Now, if you kind of take that up to our situation, as Michigan is going to slowly devolve back down to Tennessee range. I know that's true. You know that's true. They just don't know it yet. And now, like not before when Michigan was down, there was no other team that could compete with Ohio State at that level. Now there's Oregon. And I think what we're looking at here is for the next 5-10 years, an Alabama LSU situation, although a little more one-sided, hopefully for us, but that kind of level of competition, the game that everybody's excited for around the country, that Ohio State-Oregon game, the amount of national people talking about the Ohio State-Oregon game has to absolutely burn their britches up north because nobody's talking about the game. They're all talking about Ohio State-Oregon. And I just got a feeling that's the way this is going to go for a little while. And that's got to suck, man. That's got to be a real kick in the teeth for them after coming off their glorious season and following it up with one of the worst recruiting efforts I've ever seen in my life. But by the way, check this clip out here.
Over the next 6 months, we've talked about these guys at nauseum, but Michigan's been disappointing. You know, and the reason I say that is maybe they got some things cooking, but like from a program that's coming off a national championship, whether it's Jim Harbaugh or whether it's Sharon Moore, you have a window to seize. You have the wind at your back. You have everything pushing in your direction that you can sell, and you can beat your chest until September or the first week of September until you line up again. So that's that window. And you know, you got to have a good head on your shoulders. And I get it. And what I mean by that is like, yeah, you have to understand. You got to understand, like the Andrew Babalola thing. Listen, you probably shift that recruitment in your favor if you get him to campus first. That's stuff that you can't do. And you got to have a good sense for it and a good feel for it. It seems like Sharon Moore right now is, you know, very much leaning on the same thing that Jim Harbaugh did, which is player development. But Jim Harbaugh was Jim Harbaugh. You know, Jim Harbaugh had taken a team to the Super Bowl. He had an elite track record. You know, he's the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. We're talking about a first-time rookie head coach right now in Sharon Moore. That, yeah, he's got a pretty good reputation, but he's still got to prove it. You know, so I think so far what we've seen, the lack of results, not to say they aren't coming, that's been pretty disappointing.
On that, for Michigan, though, I will add, and I know you can confirm or deny this, Coop, by making one phone call, but the people in that building are concerned about the recruiting rankings, how many commits they have. They know that there was turnover at the top and that there's a lot of changes. They are not concerned about where they stand at this point with their class. They're very happy with how they're trending with a lot of guys, but at the same time, like, they have to start landing those guys, but they kind of laugh at the fact that like any negativity towards their class right now, for whatever it's worth.
Well, here's my thing. You have an entire new staff, right? Mm-hmm. You have the majority of these guys are a new staff. So these are not the same guys, the majority of them, that went out there and put together a national championship team and have been doing this for a long time. You know, so this is a staff that he's put together, he's pieced together. It's very wait and see mode. That alone is kind of like you don't understand that.
That is the best, but you don't understand that, and it's the lack of self-awareness that really is stunning. But at the same time, I just feel like most people just are really getting hip to how these guys operate in their aura about themselves on a national scene that they haven't really known. We've known it forever. Obviously, that's how they are. Yes, they think they're laughing. Of course, they're laughing. They think it's funny. Everything's going to be great. We're Michigan. And we've known them to be that all our lives. And it's not till social media, and it's really not till their whole thing last year that everybody else got to see how they are. The way they acted, everybody else got to see it because they had been irrelevant since the advent of social media until last year, and then burst onto the scene with, wow, they thought the rest of the country, the way we think about a rivalry, like let's say, I don't know, a Florida-Georgia rivalry. They think that, okay, those are similar fan bases, similar proximity, similar area of the country. They must be kind of similar. Two public institutions. They kind of thought the same way about Ohio State and Michigan fans from around the country, that were kind of the same. You know, the two names kind of go together for them, and they've always been kind of grouped together. We're so very different, but they just found that out. And I love it. I love it, and I love how people continue to see it. We're not them. We're nothing like them. As expected, Talon Taylor, wide receiver out of Illinois, has committed to Georgia. It's going to be awesome regardless, right? If you get to Corey Moore, it doesn't matter who else you get. It's going to be a great haul because you got Des Jones already, and with the Corey Moore, it makes everything great. Now, if you don't land to Corey Moore, there's still an avenue to have an unbelievable wide receiver class, in my estimation. If you can go down to tier 2 here, and if you land Vernell Brown, who I still think we lead for, even though he had a visit at Miami, said it was perfect, I still think we lead, and Quincy Porter, who heads up for his official to Michigan this weekend. And this is a Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State battle. If you can get those two guys, along with Des Jones, and then in tier 3, Dalen McCutcheon, who I think is the biggest sleeper here on this board. I also happen to think that Brian Hartline is zeroed in on Dalen McCutcheon or Phillip Bell. We don't know which one yet, but I think he's got his pick. And I don't think that he wanted Talon Taylor because I feel like the Bucks backed off of him. I really do. I feel like towards the end, the Bucks kind of backed way off because he's got his eye, and this is all just me conjecture and trying to put the puzzle pieces together because I'm bored. Dalen McCutcheon or Phillip Bell. I really believe that. So I'm hoping it's Dalen McCutcheon. And in this scenario, if you didn't get to Corey Moore, you still got Vernell Brown, Quincy Porter, Dalen McCutcheon, and Des Jones. Buddy, you've got yourself a crew, an absolute crew. Now, who's coming in for officials this week? The uncommitted guys that are coming in. Micah DeBose, lineman from Alabama, originally from Ohio. We were on an even playing field at one point in this recruitment. We've been in the hole so long to Alabama that I do not feel like it's possible to dig ourselves out at this point. Brandon Finney, stud cornerback. Love to see him in this class as another corner. Phillip Bell, we just talked about. Messiah Delhomme is a safety from Newport News, Virginia. I will come back to him in a minute. Josh Petty, that's the 5-star lineman out of Georgia who has cut his list down to the final 5. We are in that final 5. I believe Florida State, Tennessee are the other big schools. Then he's got Georgia Tech and Stanford because he's a really smart kid. Now, which way is he going to go there? One of the smart schools or one of the football schools? We don't know yet. Then you got Wu. That's look, I'm just calling him Wu because his name's really long. Nathaniel Awasu Badabingo. He's from IMG. He's coming up with our guy, London Merritt, who, by the way, there has been some articles. London Merritt took an official to USC. People kind of pushing that London Merritt may flip. I talked to London. London laughed about that. So I really don't think that's in the cards. Marion Dye, that is the bigger of the two defensive ends. They're still calling him, which I think he's not going to be an end when he grows up a little more. But from Indiana, an absolute stud. This dude would be awesome to put in that defensive line group. So defensive line, we're talking about the interior guys of Trajan Odom and Malik Autry. We would obviously prefer Malik Autry, but Trajan Odom would be a real nice addition too. And if we could add Marion Dye or Damian Shanklin or Zion Grady, we're looking money. So I think between the three of them, Marion Dye, Zion Grady, Damian Shanklin, you add one of those guys and then one of the big guys in Trajan Odom and Malik Autry, and that's a wrap on the defensive line. Maxwell Roy is a guy who is not it's surprising that he's coming for this visit. I think this visit was canceled. He's Michigan all the way. It's been known for some time. He's not really that good. I wouldn't really put him in the category of the other guys I just listed, but we'll see. And Isaiah West, our running back, we all know the deal with him. Madden Feriamo, linebacker out of California, he's out. His visit's not happening. He's going to Notre Dame, which, to be quite honest, is probably where Wu ends up too. His brother went there. He's an absolute stud, a legend there. And that's a heck of a linebacker crew for Notre Dame, by the way, as Marcus continues to do a great job. By the way, Messiah Delhomme, safety. Let's just say, okay, we got the cornerbacks in Naeem Offord and Devin Sanchez. There is a lot of noise about Naeem Offord and his official to Alabama. He's at Alabama again for a 7-on-7 tournament. He took an unofficial to Alabama. So you got all this Alabama noise around Naeem Offord. Now, I think they're trying to lay roots to eventually make a big move or make a big play for him later on. This all comes down to he loves Ohio State and he loves Tim Walton for me. So I'm not concerned. I'm really not. I know there's a lot of smoke there, but we saw how irritated the guy got about the accusations that he was getting in on Oregon, or he was, potentially flipping Oregon. The way he got so irritated about it, and his mom, they were almost indignant about it. It just kind of makes you feel like, okay, like they're all the way in. So he's going and he's having fun. Whatever, do your thing. I'm not concerned about it. I think he's on board. But my point here is about safety. So with Cody Haddad and Deshaun Stewart in the class, as soon as you added Fahim Delane, my opinion is the odds of McNutt being in this class went kaput. I think that for a couple different reasons. I've been saying for a long time that the fact that his father and his mother went to Ohio State are not helping in this situation at all. We are not getting a hometown discount. We did not have the edge going into his recruitment. It was even Steven from the rip. And he wants to be treated as the number one safety in the country, paid as such, and everything else. There is no hometown benefit here. It was never the case, not from day one. You're hearing some more people say that now, and they're absolutely right. So that was already the case. Then once you added Fahim Delane, now you're asking the number one safety to come in and share the spotlight with not just the second best safety in the country, or first, depending on what you order him in. I call Delane the best. And the two best cornerbacks in the world at their age. I don't know. They may just be the best in the world. Now, everything we've seen out of Trey McNutt in the last couple months would kind of lead you to believe maybe that's not what he's looking for. Or maybe he is. I could be totally wrong. But that's kind of the vibe I'm getting. It just seems to me like he's really gotten sucked in to the who wants me most. They're showing me they want me most. Who wants me most? Releasing the visits one at a time. Yes, it's a business. He's playing the game. He's a smart dude. But at the same time, does he want to share the limelight? I don't know. He seems to really, really love it. And the fact that now the Bucs got Fahim Delane, sure, they can pay and match everybody, but you want to be smart with your money. Do you want to pay a number one safety when you've got arguably the number one safety already in there? Probably not. You've only got so much money. You want to make sure you're putting it on the guys that are really, really important. And not that he's any less important, but you've kind of got that position covered. Sure, you'd love to have him, but who would you love to have more? You want to be able to make sure you get a David Saunders. We're talking about David Sanders. We're talking about the impact positions here, the trenches. We need the bigs, man. We need the bigs. We need to spend the money on the bigs. That's where it's at. Malik Autry's, Damian Shanklin's, David Sanders. That's where the money goes. You can't spend all the money to max out at every position. It just doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. So, yes, we can match anybody at any one position. How far down the list can we go as to who gets those max offers? Are you going to pay another number one safety who really doesn't even feel like it's one thing if you're really like, okay, this guy really wants to be here. We really need to try to match. It's never felt that way at all with him. So, I just feel like Delane being in the class, the odds went kaput. And, but I want to talk about Will Howard. So I'm curious if anybody else has gone through the same arc that I've gone on with Will Howard. I've kind of gone through this arc of confidence. So I'm going to take it from the top. The moment McCord left, I wasn't someone who immediately, so I never wrote Devin off, right? Not totally. I feel like a large portion of the fan base, as soon as he got injured, it was kind of weird. As soon as that Cotton Bowl went down the way it did, it was kind of like, oh, well, it's over for that guy. Like, he's done. We've seen enough, which was really, we've not seen anything yet. But a whole lot of people were just like, that's it. He's over. He's off, out of my mind, and wanted a transfer brought in. I was in that camp too. I didn't write Devin off, but I didn't think that it was a very responsible thing to go into the following season with just him as the lead dog, and then what was underneath him, who clearly was a long way from developing into being a starter. So I thought that was irresponsible, and the best bet was to go out and get a transfer. Now, whether that transfer was a guy who was going to be Devin Brown level, so you had two of those guys who were almost, right there, ready to start, or an experienced guy who was coming in to take the job, that was on day, whatever. But I felt like the best choice, the best option was to go out and bring in another quarterback who was on that level at least. There were plenty who thought that you didn't need to worry about it because you had Aaron Noland coming in. Aaron Noland is a really, really good quarterback prospect, but he's young, and he's, I feel like his nickname of Air had a lot of the casual fans feeling like this was maybe like a Terrell Pryor type of recruit, like a guy who was ready to come in physically and just take over. And I feel like a lot of that has to do with his nickname. Obviously a great prospect, not that level of, generational prospect, but the name really got a lot of folks thinking, we don't need to worry about next year's quarterback situation because Aaron Noland's coming. You can't even think that way with a guy like Tavian, who's physically actually ready for that. And it's just silly to ever think that about a freshman quarterback. But then there was others on the other side of the transfer argument who were totally discounting Ryan Day going after a transfer, because if you brought in a transfer, they said, you wouldn't just lose a quarterback. You'd probably lose two. You might even lose the whole room, and Aaron Noland might not come. They said it. We heard them. We haven't sufficiently clowned them, and I've never heard them make their mea culpa. I'd like to hear it. You know who you are. Say you're sorry. They were very condescending about any of us suggesting that they bring in a transfer quarterback. But the truth is, we were way ahead of the curve in the thinking, us, the fan base, as to what needs to be done in this transfer portal era. And we were right, as all five of these quarterbacks remain on the roster. So the Bucs go get Will. I don't know how you felt about him. I'm going to take you through my thought process. Will Howard, I had watched probably 3 or 4 times a full game of Will Howard before that time. If it's not your team, you don't really watch a quarterback in the terms of, would I like to have this guy on my team? You don't devour it. But every game I came away watching Kansas State, I came away thinking I like that guy. didn't think he was awesome, but I thought he was really good. I was pretty stoked. I was stoked. I had watched the Texas-Kansas State game live, very much rooting for Kansas State during that game. And Will looked like the real deal. And I was excited when the Bucks got him. We had also heard that it was Lincoln Riley who was in on him. So just Lincoln Riley, Ryan Day being the two main parties after him, that alone gave me some more confidence about the situation with Will Howard. So that was my initial thought. I was excited. I was happy. And then naturally you start going in and digging in a little harder, right? He's your new guy. So we start looking at the stats and we start finding the people who say negative things about him and seeing if there's any validity to what they're saying and looking at the bad clips and looking at the bad stuff. And the further that got along, I started feeling a little less confident. And then spring came. Now, you don't expect somebody to come in off the street into a new environment, not off the street, from Kansas State, off the farm, to come in to a brand new place and just totally tear it up unless there's something really, really special. And I don't think anybody accused Will of being really, really special. He's a good quarterback. He's a good, solid quarterback, and he's a heck of a leader. That's what everybody said from the beginning. The spring reports weren't good. Even to folks who are around the program that report from the program, the ones that are really tied in, who kind of keep it positive in most senses, they stretched for ways to say Will's not doing good without saying Will's not doing good. But it was very apparent. He wasn't doing that good. He wasn't picking it up fast. Devin was looking better. It's just the truth. And at that point, I started really doubting whether or not this was the best course of action to start Will, even though I really like the idea of focusing on more of a running game. That was still with Bill. And Bill wasn't going to run the ball a lot like that. So I started getting a little disappointed. And about that time, I started really doubting the decision to bring this guy in. And I started getting pretty irritated at the thought of having this Cadillac of a team and another average quarterback. Now, nothing has really changed on Will Howard's end from that point to now, but my attitude has. My attitude's gone back up sky high about Will Howard because we have continually seen the confidence that both Ryan Day and Chip Kelly seem to have. And all the expectations that Ryan Day has on his shoulders and is saying out loud, said it on Fox. You know, we're coming to win the national championship. Ryan Day, he's not backing down from this. He looks like a man on a mission. He looks very confident with Will Howard as the guy, assuming Will Howard is the guy, and I am making that assumption. We see how confident Chip Kelly seems to be. We see that we're finally going to use the strength. We're going to coach the team to the strength of the personnel. Now, Ryan likes to recruit the personnel to his strengths as a coach. Chip Kelly doesn't need to do that. Chip Kelly knows exactly how he wants to use Will Howard, and he can do that better than anybody. So now we hear the Nationals break down the Buckeyes. They keep bringing up the question about the quarterback. There's a question at quarterback. I don't know what exactly the question is. We know exactly what Will Howard is. We know Will Howard's floor, and I think Will Howard's floor is an upgrade from what we had last year at the quarterback position. A lot of people say McCord's stats very similar to Will Howard's, and they are. I'm also not someone who says they're going to go sky high just based on him having more talent to work with, though that will help for sure. But let's talk about maybe the most important stat that I saw when comparing those two guys, and that is the stat that was shared here when a viewer of ours emailed me and broke this puppy down. And it's one of the most incredible stats I've ever seen. And that is scoring touchdowns in the red zone, an area that we have sucked in. And our guy went through, it's our watcher here. And I'm sorry, buddy, I forget your name. I know you watch a lot. Hit me up in the comments. I'm going to give you your credit in the next episode. He broke down. So Kansas State didn't just have Will Howard playing quarterback last year. They had Avery Johnson playing as well. So you can't just take Kansas State stats and say, what was their red zone touchdown percentage? Our guy literally went through and watched every single Kansas State red zone possession to come up with these numbers for us. He did it. And in 48 out of 50 red zone possessions with Will Howard in the game, Kansas State scored a touchdown. Now, that is obviously amazing, and it was 5% better than the rest of the number two. And that 5% made it a total statistical outlier because positions like 2 through 7 were separated by a total of 5%, but Kansas State under Will Howard was up here, 5% higher than anybody else. That's amazing. So a huge outlier was Will Howard's led offense there. Listen, guys, all we need is to convert a couple more field goals into touchdowns last season, and this team could have won a championship with McCord. Like, seriously, that would have made the difference right there. Even if Will Howard is only as good as Kyle McCord and they can convert more touchdowns, it's better. Is he a better gamer? Yes. Is he a better leader? Yes. Does he move better in the pocket? Are you kidding me? We saw it in the spring game. It looked great. I mean, that looked elite as far as Will in the passing game. That part of his game is elite. He looks like a pro back there orchestrating that pocket. It was impressive. Is the team better around him? Yes. How much better did that team need to be last year to win the national championship? Not much. They lost by 6 points to the national champion. This is a better team, man. This is a much better team. And this quarterback, I think, is the right guy here. And I'm getting more and more excited about it. And every one of these guys is 1 year older, 1 year physically stronger. This is the thing. The detractors are saying you're bringing back all the same guys that just lost to Michigan for 3 years in a row. Yeah, mostly the same guys. The same guys, 1 year bigger, 1 year faster, 1 year stronger, 1 year longer in the system with more mental reps. The same guys, those same guys, yes. 1 year angrier, those same guys. So I was really considering a Will Howard jersey, and I ended up getting a gift from my family, a jersey instead. And I want to show you my new jersey that I got as a present. It is quite the jersey, and I'll show you that one at the end of the show today. I think you're going to like it. So we've talked about how I'm feeling about quarterback. Now I want to talk about the coaching staff, because there are a lot of people thinking that Ryan Day has now assembled the best coaching staff in the country. You got your offensive coordinator, the absolute legend, and Chip Kelly. Your defensive coordinator and Jim Knowles, one of the very best in the game. Nobody could argue any different. Your running backs coach and Coach Luck, the early stages of what we think is looking like a very impressive career. Your legend on the defensive line, Larry Johnson. Cornerback coach Tim Walton, quickly ascending into one of the best in the country. Wide receiver coach Brian Hartline has been there for a while. Safeties coach Matt Guerrieri, I think, is going to be a future defensive coordinator. Safeties coach Matt Guerrieri, I think, is going to be a future defensive coordinator. We've already seen his recruiting chops, which that impressed me. I wasn't really thinking that was going to be the case with him. The dude's the dude. And I can't wait to see his unit play this year. Linebacker, absolute legend in James Laurinaitis, who last year his unit did not play great, but his talent was a little inferior to what it's going to be from this point on. And now that he's in total control of the recruiting of that position, I feel very confident in that as well. Now there's two that stand out to me. There's two on this staff, and this staff to me feels like Ryan Day coaching staff generation 2.0. It almost feels like he started, he learned what he wants in a staff and what he doesn't. And this feels like the recalibration. All right. This is This is the veteran Ryan Day now that he's worked out the kinks and what he wants to see out of an assistant coach. And this feels like the staff that he wants. And the two coaches that I feel like maybe we, or at least me, as a fan base, have the most issue with are two of the guys that he clearly wants. Now, I always want my head coach, and I always say this when they're looking for assistants, is him to get his first pick. Was Justin FRYE his first pick as an offensive line coach? He's awfully familiar with him. He's awfully comfortable with him. Some people call them best friends. I think it was. I think it was his first choice. Was it a good choice? How's he been since he's been here? Keenan Bailey, we know that Ryan brought him up. Ryan, everything Keenan did along the way impressed Ryan Day enough to get him to where he's at today. So he obviously feels tremendously happy about being comfortable enough with him to put him in that position. And in a case like that, we've not seen enough out of Keenan to say yay or nay, I don't think. How fair are we being with Justin FRYE? Because I brought him up the other day and the reactions were wild, man. You guys don't like him? And again, there was a time when I had to kind of try to censor myself because I talked so much about this guy. How much of this angst does he deserve? You know what I mean? Most recently for me, it was the small net strategy. And if you're not familiar with the small net strategy, there was, I did a couple shorts about it. I'll just play those. So here's the first one. Feels like, miss, drop down, miss, drop down, miss, drop down. But then we talk about next year in the class of 2026 and the offers, the top 10 linemen in the country have 8 out of 10 of them have offers from Alabama and Georgia. And only 2 of those guys have offers from Ohio State. It's just like, I don't understand the strategy here. I really don't. And he is recruiting behind all of his peers on the staff. So when you got a blueprint laid out, right, and you can say that there is a blueprint laid out by Alabama and Georgia when it comes to offensive line play, like one of 2 things is happening here. Either he's just being lazy or he thinks he has a better way to do it. Either way, I disagree, right? So anyway, that's all I'm going to say about this guy. I feel like I bag on this guy all the time, and I don't like to bag on somebody all the time. I feel like it's garbage. And I'm saying to myself, this dude clearly must have a strategy. This cannot be laziness, right? Like, this can't be like I just didn't get around to it. It's got to be a strategy. Well, I didn't have to wait much longer to get the answer to the question. Because probably 2 days later, Jeremy Birmingham did an episode on his recruiting show where he addressed this from a question of a post in his message board, asking why there were so few offers on the offensive line. Okay, I disagree, right? All right, so as luck would have it, I've got an answer to my question. Last night on Talking Stuff, that's Jeremy Birmingham's show, he brought this up and said that he had a poster at Rivals who was asking him this question. So he went and asked around Ohio State. And the answer is, it's an intentional strategy. FRYE is outsmarting Georgia, Bama, and Michigan. They feel like if you cast a narrow net, you're going to have a tighter bond with the kids, and they're going to feel more prioritized and more special. So FRYE intentionally casted this small net. But there's a problem with this strategy, and that is when you miss out, you have very few places to pivot. You end up scrambling and making offers that you normally wouldn't make. Just things, well, the small net wasn't going well. Then about 2.5 weeks ago, we saw just an absolute flurry of offers. I mean, from coast to coast. You had Jackson Lloyd, Chip Kelly meeting him out in California to offer him. You had Sam Petiti with Mario Nash in Mississippi. You had Carlos Loughlin with Henry Fanuco in Texas. The whole staff is out there offering offensive linemen, Javon McFadden, Caden Strayhorn, everywhere, all areas of the country. It was like this mad dash, all hands on deck. FRYE needs help. We got to offer more linemen. Good news for us is that a lot of these guys in the second wave of offers have been receptive. Zaire Addison was one of those. He's recently gone to Oregon, but other than that, they're all still kind of, well, never mind. Henry Finucco went to Missouri. What else? Ooh, Caden Strayhorn's about to go to Michigan. Jackson Lloyd's heading to his official for Alabama, and it's thought that they lead. Who else? All right, so things aren't great. But he did find Andrew Stargell. You get credit for that. I don't want to make this all about recruiting. I want to talk about the performance last year. Now, he was hired in January of 2022. And I don't really I can't be fair and really judge anyone too much on their first year. As long as they held things together and their room didn't fall apart, it's almost like a freebie year, right? Even if you do great in a lot of ways, sometimes that's fluky. But the second year, now you're on the clock here. Now what are you doing? What do you have last year? You had 2 returning starters. Donovan Jackson, maybe thought to be the best lineman on the team coming into the season. I thought so. It felt like he went backwards. That's a guy you should be able to run the ball behind. His run blocking was horrible. Pass blocking, not so good either. He's giving up pressures left. He probably had 10 pressures on the season. That's not very good for a guard. But the run blocking was the most disappointing. Matt Jones was a better run blocker than Donovan Jackson, which surprised me. He actually seemed to improve from 22 to 23. So, how much can we give that to FRYE? A pat on the back for that. Offensive line is the position where you absolutely should get better from one year to the next, just based on your physical development, because it's the position on the team where that matters most. Just being 1 year bigger and stronger matters the most. So you're always going to improve, or you should, in theory, with 1 year more reps, knowledge, and just bigger, stronger. How much did Matt Jones improve? I don't know. Enough to give FRYE a pat on the back for it, maybe. Certainly wasn't a poor job. We can't say it was a poor job. Whatever happened with Donovan, you blame it on the player, you blame it on the coach. It was bad. But let's talk about center. Carson Hinsman. Now, obviously, I don't want to knock Carson Hinsman a ton. It wasn't his fault. He's a second-year guy. He wasn't ready for that. He did the best he could. He really did. Played his butt off, man. Proud of that dude. And you had a breakdown in offensive line recruiting or development that was your best option at center at Ohio State. That's an issue. We don't make excuses around here. He did not come in here with an empty cupboard. He didn't. If Hinsman was the best he could do, and that was the best performance you could put out at center, then you've done a pretty poor job. How about Josh Simmons? Did he get him ready to go? Simmons comes in the second portal window as a transfer from a small school, and he ends up playing a pretty solid left tackle. Now, he wasn't great. Didn't give up a ton of sacks. Wasn't a great run blocker. Now, he wasn't great. Didn't give up a bunch of sacks. Didn't give up a ton of pressures. He wasn't excellent at pass blocking, but so acceptable. Run blocking, not good enough, man. Not good enough. That left side of that line with him and Donovan Jackson, man, that should be your bread and butter. Neither of those guys, it was amazing to me all year. The lack of a push on that left side. How about the right side? Josh FRYE. Look, Josh FRYE gave up some really bad sacks, 5 sacks, maybe like 12 total pressures. Not good enough. Just not good enough. I thought he did a better job run blocking. And, he took a lot of crap. I don't want to pile on him. I hate piling on these guys. These are all guys. But the coaching for this unit, I'm asking myself, am I being fair when I talk about this offensive line coach so poorly? Yes, I am. I just went back over it again and just made sure I'm not being unfair. I'm not. This offensive line was just terrible. They were terrible. And each one of these guys underperformed to what I think they're capable of. That's on the coach. That's on them too. But, just not good enough. Not good enough. How about the depth? We don't need to look too far back. The Cotton Bowl showed us the lack of depth. You bench Carson Hinsman. You bring in Matt Jones from right guard to center. And Enoch Vamahi comes off the bench. That's your next man up. He was a swinging gate the entire game. Matt Jones couldn't make the calls. It was an absolute disaster. They didn't adjust. And by doing that, they told us that that was the best they had. It was either put Carson in, which they clearly weren't going to do, or somebody else. And they didn't have anybody. They thought Enoch was the best move. Now that's pathetic. This guy did not come in, and that offensive line cover was not bare. It was not. You got dudes, and they chose to go with that. With the country watching, with guys like Cade Stover playing a game that his agents advised him not to play in, and he said to the NFL media during the combine, he couldn't sleep with himself if he did that. So you got dudes like that and other seniors playing their last game ever, and that is how the coaching staff respected them. That pissed me off, man. That pissed me off. And I've become a big Ryan Day supporter. But I'll tell you, in that moment, they deserve all the criticism that they got coming, because that was unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. And this whole Carson Hinsman thing, if you're telling me, and we've got some folks that are close by the team and the media, that condescendingly laughing about the rumors about Carson Hinsman. Listen, if you genuinely believe that a Carson Hinsman was practicing poorly and that's why he got benched, okay, fair enough. Then why wasn't he put back in during the game when you clearly saw that that wasn't working? Because Carson Hinsman playing poorly is going to be leaps and bounds better than a center who can't make the calls and a swinging gate at right guard, right? So it kind of blows your story out of the water. They kept him on the bench the whole game for something. It wasn't for poor practice. It was clearly a punishment. It just was. Props to Dave Biddle, by the way, the only one in the media with the balls to say, yeah, something went right here. Okay? It clearly wasn't. And I'll never get over that game. I mean, it's one more ding on our 2-13 SEC record postseason. And we've taken a lot of crap for that stupid game that meant nothing, that we could have won. Even without Devin in that scenario, the defense played so historically wonderful that we could have snuck up and won that damn game. We could have won it despite losing our starting quarterback, who was the backup quarterback. We could have won that game, sent the seniors out right, felt great about things, and they gave it away. They didn't coach to win. They deserve every bit of criticism they get, and I'll never shut up about it. Here I am working myself up. Listen, I'm in a great mood. Every time I think, by the way, guys, that game is the reason I started the podcast. I said, that's it. I'm doing it. I bought myself a microphone, and here I am. Little did I know that by the time that microphone came in, it would be nothing but positive vibes. But even with all of our irritation with Justin FRYE, and I know a lot of you feel the same way, there is nothing that Chip Kelly can't do to help him. I mean, but even with all our irritation with Justin FRYE, I know a lot of you guys got it too. But even with all our irritation with Justin FRYE, we've got Chip Kelly. And I know that even some of you think like, all right, this sucks. Chip Kelly's definitely going to make him look better, and then we're going to be stuck with him forever. And there's some truth to that. But, listen, all we care about is the performance of the offensive line is going to be better, or at least look better. Because Chip's going to make it, though. Like, Chip has been able to take much lesser talented offensive linemen and turn them into better linemen in his systems. I think he's fully capable to do it with the group of guys he's got here. And now we bring in, these are 4 starters from last year and a veteran, assuming Hinsman starts at guard. We think Hinsman's going to start at guard. And a veteran center from Alabama. We're talking about 5 dudes who started a pile of games last year. Our starting lineup looks good. These dudes look good. They really do. You got Simmons, lost himself 20 pounds, looks like an athlete, looks like he's going to be a high-round pick if he keeps up this improvement. Donovan Jackson, it's his money year. I've always had faith in this guy's talent. He really, let's just say he had a bad year. He's a smart guy, man. He's a real smart guy. I think he comes around. I love McLaughlin. I think McLaughlin's a great center. Not only that, but he is so smart. They talk about how fast he picked everything up. I'm talking about the other players in the room. We heard him independently say, like he blew him away. So we know he's going to be making the right calls. We know he's got the experience. He's strong enough. He's powerful enough. The snapping issue, I'm blaming it all on Jalen Milroe because I don't like him. It's not our guy's fault. He didn't do that. At right guard, if it is Hinsman put on 20 pounds of beef after that situation from the Cotton Bowl. He looks fantastic. He didn't stick his head in the sand. He didn't turn tail and run and transfer. He stuck it out and might have just earned himself another starting role in another job. That's fantastic. That's impressive. I'm not betting against the guy. And then, of course, we got FRYE, who I've already said I like. He's a year bigger and a year better. Not the fleetest of foot, but the dude gets in there and he's grimy, man. He's grimy. He gets dirty. He gets nasty. I like him. So I feel very confident, not only in this personnel, but in this unit because of Chip Kelly. And we're going to run the ball, baby. We're going to run the ball again. Listen, I got an affinity for the offensive line. I really do. Just like I said, man, like that's my sweet spot. Running backs, the running game, the offensive line. That's what I love. And I just can't stand it when those aren't up to snuff with the rest of the team. That's all we want. We just want them to be as good as everybody else on the team. I think we're going to see it this year. I really do. So I just want the offensive line to be as good as the rest of the team. I don't think it's too much to ask. And I think that they're going to be. Man. I'm telling you, there's a lot of people questioning this offensive line. And when we look at it like that, with those returning starters, 5 guys, how is this a question? It's only a question because of how poorly they played as a unit last year. These are all quality players, man. These are all quality offensive linemen. All right, guys, I'm done rambling about Justin FRYE. I'm done rambling about the line. I'm sorry. I don't know what I got off on a tangent there. I've lost my notes even. Yeah. You know what I need to do is not take a day off. I took a day off from the show, and I feel like I've forgotten how to do the show, which is that's not great for you. You like it, that is. What else do we got? Where's my notes here? All right. We had a bunch of guys at camp, man. We got some offers. Neiman Marcus. I'm not going to get into this. I don't want to get into camp. I do got a question for you guys. Can anybody tell me? These are the Centerville Elks, okay? Centerville High School down Southwest Ohio, I believe. I'm from Northeast Ohio, so I'm not too familiar with the Southwestern Ohio high schools, but I have seen these guys before. I think AJ Hawk went here. Maybe we had a big nasty defensive lineman that came from here one year too, I believe. But I've always wondered what is the situation with these crazy helmets. Are these like earned? Do you earn more stripes for doing good things? Because you see, look at the guy on the left, number 10. Look at all that. He's got all those stripes. And then the guy next to him, 88, just a couple of stripes. 68, just a couple of stripes. Look at the big helmet behind 68. He's only got 2. And then this guy next to him with it, totally striped out. I mean, this is got to be one of the crazier looking helmets in high school football. This is bizarre. I want to know about this tradition, how long it's been going on. I want to know all about it. I Googled, I couldn't find it. I couldn't find anything. So if any of the audience knows anything about this tradition at Centerville High School with these helmet stripes, please let me know. I haven't decided whether or not I love it or hate it. And the story, whatever the reason is behind it, might sway my opinion. And I would really love to know. And that's what's nice about having a show. I can ask that. All right. Now, let me check. Listen, this is what got me off on the tangent here. Like, you guys went nuts on Friday. Where's the beef? If we can fire a running backs coach and politely remove the quarterbacks coach, it's beyond me why the team can't address these offensive line recruiting failures. At this point, it's hypocrisy, especially if we can't develop from within. That's from Tom Ridley. All right, let's talk about the recruiting. First off, what has he done? Year number 1, the state provides him Luke Montgomery, high-rated 4-star, Josh Padilla, not a very high-rated 4-star, and Austin Searvold. He was a 3-star. He's apparently looking pretty good. So the state gave him that. He took some swings on a national level, swing and a miss, swing and a miss, swing and a miss, and that's the class. Then he comes back in class number 2 and brings in Ian Moore. That was a win, top 200 guy out of Indiana, 4-star, and then goes with the Armstrong twins at St. Ed's. They are both 3-star guys, but I think most people around the program and a lot of us think that those guys were not properly rated there. I believe that they should have, at minimum, been 4-star dudes, top 300 guys. Like, they're big, they're athletic. I didn't understand it from the beginning. In fact, it surprised me a lot. I remember when I first saw I first saw them coming up, and I was like, these dudes are going to be good. And at the time, they were like 3 stars, and I scoffed at it, like, yeah, wait. And they somehow came off the board at 3 stars at the very end of the process. And I'm talking like I first recognized them when they were younger. So that always surprised me. And then Gabe Van Sickle, another 3-star from Michigan. So on paper, with the rankings, not a great class, but I think that the Armstrong twins and Ian Moore are going to be really good linemen. So he's not going to get a ton of great marks for the stats on this class, but I do think it was a pretty good class. Now, when it comes to this class this year, we've got Carter Lowe again. The state provided him Carter Lowe. What else has he brought in? Well, I think he's brought in Andrew Stargell, who is a 3-star with offers from no other big schools. And under most circumstances in other positions, we would be like, what the hell is this? But I've put on this film of Stargell, and a lot of you guys are thinking what I'm thinking, like, yep, the dude's got the size necessary. And with that kind of attitude and that kind of footwork, he can be something really special. He's not yet. And that's why he's a 3-star right now. But I'm happy with that. If we land that dude, I'm happy. He makes the rankings go down, but I'm happy because I think what you've done there is you've pulled one over on everybody else. You've pulled one over on Georgia and Alabama and everybody else who didn't go after him. That's a great evaluation, in my opinion. Those ones are even more exciting sometimes than the really high-rated guys. For me, anyway. But then you got, dudes we're swinging and missing on. Henry Finucane was not supposed to leave Columbus, everybody told us. He was the most likely to commit right then and there after his official. Instead, he takes an official the next week to Missouri and commits to them. Zaire Addison, off to Oregon. Joshua Blackston to Rutgers. In that scenario, I don't think the Bucs were after him very hard. Now, we've still got Big Dave Sanders. He's on the line, man. We've still got Josh Petty. He's up in the air right now. We've still got Jackson Lloyd. Those are three. Obviously, Sanders, the biggest prize. Josh Petty is really not that far behind. And Jackson Lloyd would kind of be in that next tier, but still an excellently highly rated prospect that everybody in the country wants. If he can get one of those dudes, and then with Carter Lowe, like now you're looking at a fantastic job. So he's really just one away. You know, you land one of those dudes with Carter Lowe and a great evaluation on Andrew Stargell. Like, you've done a hell of a job, and I'm going to give him his props if that happens. But he's still got to land that. Now, how much credit are we going to give him for landing a guy like David Sanders when it's been nothing but like all hands on deck to assist him? Hey, it doesn't matter. He's on the team. In the case of FRYE, I really think it's come to the point where I need to just start rooting for the guy because he's not going anywhere. And then I talked to somebody about this too. Like, do you think, like you're saying here, like it's hypocrisy? You know, when you're running the organization, that's just up to you, man. I mean, if you feel that comfortable with this guy to the point where you are going to let him hurt your own program, then that's on you. I don't know what else we can do. All right, Ryan Day's Beard. It seems to me that we recruit well at skill positions and now starting to pick up the steam on defense. Why is Ohio State letting the trench play be the downfall? And, you know, yeah. I used to say Alabama doesn't recruit players, they select them. Seems Ohio State is finally moving to that level now that Nick is gone. The only exception, offensive line. Maybe we should consider doing the Michigan model. Just go into the portal and take 1 or 2 4th and 5th year proven guys to plug holes for guys that didn't develop. This seems like the hardest position to develop. You don't know how you did in your recruiting until year 3 on any given player. Great show, BIA, go Bucks. Hey, you know, they got another guy, I think, this year that was a really good one from Northwestern. And it's really a position that in that first portal window, obviously we saw the second portal window, there wasn't anything to be had, offensive lineman. But it is a position in that first portal window that you can get some solid pieces. And I really am with you here. I think it almost ought to be on every coach's to-do list to add one veteran offensive lineman every single first portal class. Like, just bring one in regardless and let him battle it out with your guys. I don't care about team chemistry. I don't care. Like, bring one in, let him fight for it. You've got the spot on the roster for him. If you don't, you can pay his way. It doesn't matter. Bring him in. Totally with you on that. I really believe Brewer Finney will be in this class and OSU will pursue McNutt till he inks with someone else. I really believe Brewer Finney will be in this class and OSU will pursue McNutt till he inks with someone else. I am really getting excited about the prospect of Brew. It almost seems unfair to add Brew to Offord and Dev, but it seems like more and more likely that that might actually happen. It's just insane. But if you don't get him, do you get Finney? I think you do. I think you do. And Finney's in town this week. And it's just becoming, we've just hit a different level at Ohio State than we've ever been at before. When we're talking about these high-end defensive backs, it just over and over and over, it's becoming the thing, man. They want to come to Ohio State now. And it's exciting. It's very exciting. It's such an important position, and it's really one of those things that started to set Alabama apart to becoming that dynasty, is those nonstop, crazy defensive backfields that they had. McNutt's made it clear. He wants to go where he's wanted most. They're showing me how bad they want me. I want to see who wants me most and who wants me. This does not seem, I'll ask you this. Does that seem to jive with the type of guy that the Buckeyes go all in on? Does that seem like David Sanders? Does that seem like JJ? Does that seem like the guy that they go all the way in on? And I'll just leave it at that. All right, guys. Now, let me show you my new jersey, and I'm going to get out of here. Now, here's the thing. They got me my new Sonny Styles jersey because they know a couple of things about me. One, I look very handsome in scarlet, according to my mother, right? Number two, I will only wear an Ohio State jersey if it has the proper sleeves, okay? And by that, I mean our birthright, gray sleeves. And number three, I love Sonny Styles, okay? I walk around the house all day and say, Sonny Styles. I answer questions with Sonny Styles, and it drives them nuts. Why do I say that? I don't know. Sometimes I irritate my family just for fun. So they got me this Sonny Styles jersey because I love Sonny Styles. Now, I'm going to leave here, but I want to show you guys one last thing on my way out today about my Sonny Styles jersey, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Chuck on Bucks out. Have a good one, guys. Devin Brown is not injury prone. If I throw a 3-interception game, you're going to tell me I'm turnover prone. But if one interception was on me, one interception the receiver fell down, and one interception was a Hail Mary at the end of the first half, then really only one pick was on me, and now I'm not turnover prone, right? I mean, context matters. So that's the way I like to explain it when I explain Devin Brown. And we can start with the finger in the spring game, the finger before the spring game that he hurt and missed the spring game. He was throwing a pass and he hit it on someone's helmet. Now, that's an injury a lot of people have had. We've heard about it 1,000 times from a quarterback. Sometimes you just can't go with it. That doesn't make you injury prone. Even if you add it onto someone who is actually injury prone, that's not something that you would count on that. It's just not. But he missed the spring game, and it was his first, quote, injury, so it resonates in people's brains. Oh, didn't he miss this for injury? Yeah, he did. Well, that's garbage to add that onto anything like that. What's next? The ankle at Penn State. How did he get that ankle at Penn State? Well, he volunteered to do something for his team to help his team out. He took it right up the gut, got twisted up by some really big defensive linemen because the offense needed him, and the offensive line did a poor job. But he stuck it up in there just like he was supposed to, and he did it as hard as he could. And because of that, he hurt himself. That's not how this guy plays. This guy's a gunslinger. He's a Brett Favre. He's not a Tim Tebow. But he did it for the team. And then he gets punished, gets saddled with this injury, and he wants to come back, man. Guy wants to get back. We roll around the Wisconsin game. He's still out with his ankle. He probably knows he shouldn't come back yet, but he senses that McCord is not doing so hot, and he might have a chance to seize the job right then and there. So he pushes it. And in warm-ups, the ankle clearly wasn't ready, and he tweaks it again. And all of a sudden, everybody throws. Now he's injured again. That's not being injured again. That's trying to come back too early. Matter of fact, I blame that one as much on the training staff as him being too overzealous trying to push that. It's the same injury he just had. That's not an additional injury. We don't throw that onto the total. So, as it stands now, these are one finger, one ankle that was injured, twisted up in a pile, and then trying to return back too fast from that ankle. None of this is injury-prone stuff. The only injury that you can say and look at that was like, maybe this guy's got a soft tissue issue was the Missouri ankle, where he hurt the other ankle on a weird cut and it looked funky. All right, so maybe he's got weak ankles. I have bad wrists. Do you have bad knees? A lot of our bodies have a bad somewhere. His ankles might need help, and they've addressed it. He was wearing wide receiver shoes. He now wears lineman shoes. There we go. I think saddling him with that tag of being injury prone is both unfair, and I think it's just rude. I think it's rude because he was doing things out of his comfort zone for the good of the team. So I don't like it one bit. But anyway, that's my spiel on that. And I know a lot of you guys disagree because every time Devin Brown gets brought up anywhere, I see 20 comments about injury prone or He's going to last 5 minutes, all that. I mean, context matters, guys.